Good morning, everyone. Talk about anxiety. When you were describing all the symptoms, when you were describing all the symptoms, you forgot shortness of breath. You're like gasping for air. But anyway, you would think that everything is connected. Well, it is. We know that spiritually it is connected. What Joanna brought to us today has everything to do with the theme. And you would think that we planned it that way, us here, incarnate spirits. But that's how we know that everything is connected here, because resignation and surrender. That's our theme for today, and it has everything to do with the first reading. And I haven't talked for a while, and I don't as often. And every time Biga asks me to speak, I don't hesitate. I go, of course. That's my answer always, of course, But after that, of course, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to do this again. And it's been a while, But, actually, the study helped me. I just surrendered. I studied it. I went to the dictionary. English is my second tongue. And so I went to know the definition of the resignation and surrender. And I started studying. Throughout the study, it was just something telling me, just surrender. It's not going to be you talking there. We're just lending our body here. We put our heart, and everything just happens when you surrender. And that's exactly what I tried to do. I can't say I did it. It helped a lot. It helped me a lot more than with lectures in the past. But this time, actually, like I wasn't there at that last minute reading and sweating and all of that. It worked. It worked a little bit. So it does work. So let's see if we can share with you guys a little bit of what I learned from this, from preparing the study. So resignation and surrender in our daily lives. So being resigned, this is from vocabulary.com. Being resigned means you've given up or surrendered to an unpleasant reality and the fact that you can't change it. In other words, the acceptance of something undesirable but inevitable. Now, in Spiritism, I love the way they put it. In Spiritism, resignation is the active, willing acceptance of life's trials and unavoidable hardships. Rather than passive submission or giving up, it is viewed as the consent of the heart's willingness to accept what cannot be changed. It is a dynamic virtue, not a state of apathy or the denial of one's feelings. Resignation is not about passively accepting everything without action. And God, I wish I could have been asked to do this lecture at 20 years ago, because when you don't know, when you don't study, that's why I strongly encourage us all to study a lot, because you take things literally and you wind up thinking that this was meant to be. I'm a spiritist. This is my karma, and you just, that's not what Spiritism wants us to do, and it's not where it wants us to be. So it's about aligning our will with the divine wisdom, trusting that every challenge has a purpose for our spiritual growth. It's a conscious, serene acceptance of life's trials without bitterness, doing our best to improve situations within our reach. It is not giving up on life, letting others abuse, or passively allowing preventable suffering. So I've been there. I'm sure most of us have, just taking things literally and not studying. It is taking responsibility for your circumstances, letting go of the anger and frustration that comes with fighting reality and focusing on lessons you can learn from your current situation. That I did. I was stuck in a situation where I thought I was supposed to be because I'm a Christian, because of all of the other things that I mentioned. But when I opened my eyes and finally started deeply studying, I, I really learned a lot and I grew a lot from that experience. And today I realized that I needed to go through that. I needed to have that knowledge at the time to go through that and overcome that, to extract the best that I could from that painful situation that I was in. This reminds me of Constantia, somebody I used to study with. We had a group that she used to direct for depression. And she used to tell us that all the time. She used to say, when pain comes, make sure you squeeze it, extract everything that you can, because you will grow from it. It's just the perspective, just how you look at it. Okay, since it's in our daily lives, the aspects in daily life, acceptance with faith, understanding that difficulties are part of our moral and spiritual evolution, patience in adversity, responding to setbacks with calmness instead of revolt. And number 3, constructive action. This is the key. Acting to improve what can be changed while accepting what cannot. And for that, I always like to mention the Serenity Prayer. I'm sure most of us know it, but I'll say it for the ones that don't. It's a very short prayer. And it goes like this. I've said it so many times and still do. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This little prayer, it's so small. It's like Joanna's little book. It's so small, but gigantic, what the effect of that prayer, it's really amazing. So some practical examples. When facing illness, seeking treatment. We're not going to sit there, go to a center, go to your church and expect, the spirit. And no, we have to do our part. Science is here. We need to use, everything that is given to us. Everything we have to do what's in our power, everything that we can to change that situation, right? So seeking treatment while maintaining inner peace and hope. And I have a very good example, and I asked for permission. My boss, I won't mention his last name. He can just be my boss, not even the first name. He's facing 2 cancers. He had, the wife has dementia. The cousin, who had nobody to care for her, was never married, never had children. Parents are gone. They're all in like their early 80s. And with those 2 cancers, that man, what he does and what he's done, I mean, every day I look at that and I'm like, God, and with the big smile, I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, Everybody Loves Raymond. Everybody loves Joe. Everybody loves him everywhere he goes. It's a big smile. Everybody wants to hug him. He's always happy, always happy. I've never seen him say, why me or why this? Never. He's like the perfect example of this. When facing illness, but after he comes to Miami, he's doing everything that he can. And I mean, he has amazing doctors. And I strongly believe that his posture is what attracts that. Because he comes home and he's like, wow, what a beautiful place, Mary. He was in the hospital. Recently, he had something with the liver, where he went to a horrible treatment. And when he comes home and we ask him, and he's like, you got to see this place. What a beautiful hospital. And you got to see the people there. So to me, when I was preparing this, I actually went out there because I live where I work. And I said, Joe, I'm preparing a lecture and it's about surrendering and resignation. He didn't even know what it meant, resignation. So I read it from the dictionary and what spiritually it means. And he was like, wow. He said, you think I am all that? and then on top of everything, humble, amazing. I feel so blessed to be a part of everything there. Not easy, but I do feel blessed. So in conflicts, choosing dialogue and understanding over resentment. And third, this is the one that gets us a lot. In financial or personal losses, focusing on lessons learned and new opportunities for growth. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I go through a lot and I've been through a lot, but it's a lot easier when I have a little bit in my bank account. When you're broke and you're going through all these hardships, I don't know, it makes it a lot worse. But just see that, because also I have a lot of examples. I can stand here all day long and share with you guys what my life has been like. Even when you surrender, and I learned all this preparing this, it took me back to times where I thought, oh my God, I was a single mom and I'm like, how am I going to pay insurance, rent, the kids, 3 kids? And then I was like, anxiety would take over. But in the end, God, it was always there, like a miracle. Like a miracle. I remember one time I had 2 days to pay my rent, car insurance, my daughter's cell phone because she went to college. It was that Nextel, that big one. And it was $500 back then for that thing. And I had to pay her bill and everything, and I had nothing. But out of the blue, that money just like magic, Until this day, every time I think that I'm not going to make it financially, I have to take myself back. And I'm like, relax, because one way or the other, it's going to work out. It always has. I'm 63 years old. And trust me, it has. And it always happens when I let go. When I'm still going crazy and trying to swim in the worries and everything that brings, nothing happens. But as soon as you're like, all right, what can I do? That serenity prayer comes in handy. And I've been using it a lot in these 63 years since I learned it well. So in the gospel, according to Spiritism, resignation is seen as a form of courage. The courage to trust God's plan, even when we don't fully understand it. That old saying, right? God works in mysterious ways. He really does. It transforms suffering into a stepping stone toward greater wisdom and compassion. Okay, so we learned a little bit about resignation, and here comes surrender. And according to Cambridge, to stop fighting and admit defeat. I didn't like that at all when I read that. In Spiritism, surrender is not viewed as giving up or defeat, but rather as an active resignation and trust in the divine providence. It involves aligning our free will with the natural, moral laws of the universe and accepting life's trials as necessary opportunities for spiritual growth and the expiation of current and past mistakes. So surrender is literally the posture that says, Lord, you lead and I will follow. Sometimes surrendering can sound scary to our ego. It can feel like giving up, totally giving up control, admitting defeat. But in reality, surrender is a powerful act of letting go, trusting the process, and allowing divine guidance to take over. In spiritual surrender, we acknowledge that there's a greater force at work than just our own efforts. We trust in the universe or a higher power to guide us toward our needs. And we recognize that we're not in complete control. And that's what really kills us. We want and need to be in control. It's our way. It's the Frank Sinatra syndrome, my way. If it's not our way, and what do we know? Do we know what's best for us? Being a spiritual infant as we are, we don't know what's best for us. So we have to trust that there's a power out there that is guiding us, and especially us who study spiritism. Um, we've learned so much. We know we're not alone. We know we're not on our own, right? So we need to try and surrender and trust, right, for our own good. So we understand that everything happens for a reason, and we're exactly where we need to be. And this allows us to let go of the need for control and surrender to something greater. And how do we benefit from surrendering? I did. Preparing this, I benefited from this so much. It helped me out a lot. When we surrender, we're no longer fighting against natural flow of life. We allow things to unfold as they're meant to and take inspired action rather than forcing things to happen. This makes our actions feel more effortless and aligned with our true needs, not our true wants. Jesus constantly teaches obedience and resignation, two virtues which are very similar of mildness and activity. Although man wrongly confuses them with denial of sentiment and free will. Obedience is the consent of the reason. Resignation is the consent of the heart. I love that. Really do. Both are active forces since they carry the burden which has fallen upon them due to foolish revolt. The coward cannot be resigned any more than the prideful and selfish can be obedient. When we resign ourselves to our reality, it creates an opportunity for surrender. And this allows us for a greater sense of core acceptance of ourselves and all that is. So on chapter 5 from the gospel, is everybody following it so far? Does it make sense? Yeah. Mm-hmm. There are two kinds of, if you prefer, stem from different sources, which are important to our outside, this present life. On going back to the origins of earthly misfortunes, it must be recognized, this is on the Gospel, chapter 5, that many are natural consequences of character and the behavior of those who suffer them. How many fail through their own fault? How many are the victims of their own thoughtlessness, pride, or ambition? How many destroy themselves through lack of discipline, misconduct, or from not knowing how to limit their desires? And then it goes on about marriages. It's long. If you guys want to read it, I recommend it. But it goes into marriage and, that weren't built in true love and was built in vanity. It doesn't last. And there's a bunch of examples there. But how many disagreements and fatal disputes could have been avoided with the aid of a little moderation and less? How many illness and diseases stem from intemperance and excess of all kinds? Anxiety. How many illnesses does that bring us when we don't even try to surrender and trust? We develop all kinds of diseases in our liver, in our stomach, and they're nameless. So many diseases caused by that. And I skipped the next one. And how many of us can say, if I had done or not done such and such thing, I wouldn't be where I am now. So when we're like in the dark and we're confused and feel lost and it hurts and it's painful, and we look back, there are so many things that we could have done different, and that's why it's important to go back to the beginning where we said you learn, your lesson and you move on. And when you start to see the signs, that's how I I learned that lesson, and now I see the signs and I just back up, and I know that exactly where that's going to take me because I've been there before. And I just know, not literally, don't go there. You made, that's what we're here for. We make mistakes, and we're all human. And yes, we make them, but the thing is, are we learning from them? Because that's the key. Once we learn, we stop making those mistakes. We'll make other mistakes, of course, but at least that one. Keep repeating that same mistake. That's being stubborn, right? Or addictive to suffering, or whatever. Well, now sufferings due to causes prior to the present existence, as well as those which originate from present causes, are frequently the consequences of errors which have been committed. That is to say, though, the action of a rigorously distributive justice. We come to suffer where we have made others suffer. If we have been hard and inhumane, we may be treated with hardness and inhumanity. If we were too full of pride, we may be born in humble circumstances. If we have been miserably selfish or made bad use of our riches, you literally collect what you plant. That's what that is saying. But remember, in the beginning, Jesus came here to show us that love is the way. We don't have to be punished forever. We actually were not punished. I don't even like that word, punishment. But that's what Jesus came here to teach us, that love fixes everything. Any mistake we made, there's a chance to make it better if we have love, and if we take charge, and if we just take all these teachings and use them, we can make it better. And we're not alone, like I said before. In the Spirits book, I'm supposed to do a lecture on this also, so it helped me a little bit. What is a guardian angel? It's 490 on the Spirits book. A protective spirit of a higher order. What is the mission of the protector? Their mission is that of parents toward their children, to guide their words along the path of the good, to help them with their counsels, to console them in their afflictions, and to sustain their courage in the trials of earthly life. Are protective spirits connected to the particular individual from birth? And it says, from birth to death. They frequently accompany them after death in the spirit life, and even through numerous corporeal existences, because these existences are no more than very short phases in the life of a spirit. Is the mission of a protective spirit voluntary or obligatory? The spirit is obliged. Obliged means to accommodate or do a service for someone, to watch over you because it has accepted the task. However, it is allowed to choose beings who are attuned to it or surrendered. We surrender to our guardian angel. I mean, isn't this amazing that you were born and somebody took that task to take care of you? And now, and that's one spirit of higher order. Now we have our loved ones that are in a better place and they are capable of coming. So we have our friendly spirits. We have our guardian angel, the friendly spirits. We have family members. We are surrounded by beings that want to help us, but we refuse. Sometimes we're so in the middle of all that we forget that. Even when we do the gospel at home once a week, we come here once a week, but in that turmoil, when everything is, we tend to forget. We really do. And it's a shame, because it's such a beautiful gift from our Creator to just grant us all this help, all this love, loving help, because they love us. They want to take care of us. They want to help us, in our path. And sometimes we just turn our back. And I remember a very good, and it just dawned on me right now. We used to visit a nursing home in New Jersey. And it wasn't just a nursing home, it was also a rehab center. And we'd meet before to say the prayer, and we had coffee and all of that. And then after the meeting, we would meet again and discuss what we learned, the experience that we just went through. And there was this new person there that just stood there because there were a lot of people there that smoked. Some people smelled like alcohol. And after the visit, we're standing outside, and this person was so angry and everything, like broken sweat. And it was like, how can you be in that place? How can you be that old and still smoke and still do this and still do that? He was so agitated. Out of the blue, I don't know where it came from, but I looked at him and I said, oh my God. Can you imagine being your guardian angel right now? What you're doing to your body with all that anger? Your poor guardian angel probably took a walk right now because you're so angry. Look what you're doing to yourself. What you just done to yourself in those couple of minutes, the way you got so agitated, is probably worse than what they're doing in there to their lungs, And he started laughing, thank God. He didn't take it personal or anything because I didn't really think. It just came and I opened it, I just said it, And but that's it. We forget. And we focus a lot on the external, like people that drink, people that smoke, people that overeat. But we don't stop to think about that, about the anxiety. And this, I'm so grateful to the mentors of this house, to Biga, and to everybody that made it possible for me to study this, because I learned so much and was actually able to put it a little bit into practice, So here, I found this lesson that I think might help us. It helps me. I hope it helps all of you. It's from this book, Living Springs by Chico, and the spirit is Emmanuel. Living Springs is one of my favorites. And it's lesson 162. Within the struggle, and this comes from Jesus, I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you deliver them from evil. This is to John 17:15. Do not ask to be delivered from your suffering. Pray for the strength to bear it with serenity and heroism, so that you do not lose the advantage of experiencing it. Do not ask for the stones to be removed from your pathway. Insist on receiving thoughts that will help you take advantage of them. Do not demand that your adversaries be driven away. Ask for resources for your own elevation so that you may transform their sentiments. Do not plead for the end of your problems. Look for ways to overcome them and to assimilate their lessons. Nothing exists without a reason. The wisdom of the Lord does not leave room for uselessness. Suffering has its inevitable function in the plans of the soul, just as the storm has an important place in the economy of nature. From the moment it sprouts, the tree grows and produces, overcoming all resistance. The body of the creature develops amidst all kinds of dangers. Let us accept our day of service wherever and however the wise will of the Lord has determined it. In presenting the disciples to the Heavenly Father, the Master said, I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you deliver them from evil. The earth has its mission and its grandeur. Let us deliver ourselves from the evil that operates within us, and we will receive the divine help, becoming along with it living agents in the blessed kingdom of God. So whenever you feel lost and drowning, lesson 163, there are many more. I mean, I went through a lot of them before choosing this one. Joanna de Angelis also Jesus and Jesus. One second. Jesus and insecurity. It's very long. I loved it, but it's too long. It would have been too long to read it all. But if you have that book, Jesus and insecurity, Jesus in our days is the book, and the lesson is Jesus and insecurity. I mean, we have all the tools. We have so much, especially us here, incarnate and discarnate in this room, and the ones that will be listening to it later on. We have so much. It's like everything else, I believe. It's an exercise, you know. And when we exercise, I mean, if it's no different than when we go to the gym, right? You go and you get used to the 5 pounds, and then you get to the 10 pounds, and that's our spiritual. That's how we get strong. So we should actually be grateful. When they talk about being grateful for suffering, people think, you know, if you don't study, you think, well, spiritism encourages you to suffer. And no, no, it doesn't. It does not encourage us to, it just teaches us how to deal with it and actually be grateful. Because if you are now lifting those 10 pounds and then those 20, it means you're stronger, right? So if you think you can't handle what's coming to you now, just think that God trusted you, and he knows that you're capable, and he knows that you're not alone, you know? We do have a personal trainer, our guardian angel. It's our spiritual personal trainer. He's there to help us. If it gets too heavy, don't hesitate. Just surrender and hand it. Hand it over. Not before we tried everything. We have to do our part. Knocking the door will be open, right? There's so many, the Bible is full of examples. We have to make the movement. And once we make that movement, the help comes. I am living proof of that. Really am. And well, there's a couple of, I found this very interesting book, and it's not a spiritist book, but it's The Power of Surrender. I listened to it for 2 days. It's 2 hours, and I listened for 2 days. And there's a couple of phrases there that I loved. And it says, we spend our lives building fortresses of certainty. There's no firm ground. We're floating in space. Seeking security in the external is like trying to drive a nail into a cloud. The only real security is the capacity to navigate. I love that. The only stability is the capacity to flow with change. The addiction to certainty is the ego's drug. As long as you remain addicted to certainty, you will be a slave to fear. So that was the message we tried to bring today. I hope that you guys, like me, learn to surrender, because it is a breath of fresh air when you do. Like the other lectures the prior lectures, I sat there with my heart beating and a little sweat, and I couldn't breathe. And today I was even able to engage in a conversation, and I was a little more tranquil. I don't know if you noticed, because you know me, but it made a difference. It really did. When I surrendered and I just said, nobody asked me to do this for no reason. There's a reason. And then I remembered that the mentors of this house, and I thanked them, and I said, I know you'll be there with me because you made it possible. You brought me here, so I know you're going to be there with me, backing me up, you know? And I surrendered. All right. Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you.